Welcome to this online training, 5 Steps to Maintaining a Family Organization and a System of Care. Lori Chapman and Donna Ewing-Marto represent a professional and family partnership team who have developed the concepts of this training based on their expertise in implementing and maintaining a family and youth organization within their own county and helping others to do the same. We hope you can utilize this material to continue the great work that you're doing right now. To move to the next slide, simply push the right arrow button on your keypad. The most important step for maintaining a family organization within a system of care is really developing a solid identity. And it's also very critical that this identity is representative of the family and youth sector that you're serving. You're going to need to decide if you want the organization to be focused strictly on families or to incorporate youth. Some counties prefer to have a separate family organization and a separate youth organization. We found it to be helpful to have them integrated so that we're not fragmented and we're working together, but that decision will be up to you. It's also critical when you're thinking about establishing your identity to ensure that what you're establishing will have some flexibility within it to allow growth to occur. If you become too rigid or rigidly defined, you tend to limit your funding streams and income streams, and that's something we found is really critical, is to keep a nice narrow focus, but not too limited that we can only get one type of funding to maintain the organization. Ideally, of course, you will have developed a name. If you have not, we suggest that you pull together a group process for this where you're getting representatives from the different sectors in the system of care, family and youth, public, private, education. If this isn't something that you can do, then we at least recommend you have a small group of family and youth giving input into the name. Another really critical component to establishing a solid identity is to develop really strong mission and vision statement. These statements are going to really hold you accountable for what you're trying to do, as we've found that a lot of providers expect family organizations to do things that are out of the realm of what we've intended to do. A mission statement is going to define your organization, why it exists, and its reason for being. At a minimum, it should define who your primary customers are, the services you provide, and describe the geographical location in which you operate. A vision statement is really dealing with the future. It's going to describe the destination towards which you are aiming. You're not setting out how you're going to arrive. Your vision statement is about where you're going to be. It's never static, but always dynamic, and is designed to set free an organization's energy. Some examples of good vision statements are from Ford, to produce a car that everyone can afford, and Disneyland, to create a place for people to find happiness and knowledge. Once you've developed a really solid mission and vision statement, you want to identify somebody to develop your logo. And all of these activities are going to be done through a group facilitation process, as you would have done in creating the name of your organization. The logo is going to be very symbolic of the organization, and once one looks at it, is going to know exactly what the organization represents. When you've completed the mission and vision statement and your logo, you're going to develop an elevator speech that's really a brief synopsis incorporating your name, elements of the mission or vision statement, to describe to others at marketing events or at meetings, wherever you're at, what your organization is and what it intends to do. Once you've identified a solid identity, it'll be important to move into step 2, which involves building effective partnerships with other system of care entities. And the first step to that is simply making a list of all the sectors involved in your system of care and identifying key individuals within each system that you've either had a relationship with or would like to have a relationship with. And these individuals are going to help carry on your message within their sector and also provide you feedback from their sector about how your organization is doing. Sometimes we'll call these key individuals champions, but often we'll have both key individuals and champions in a sector. A champion is really going to be a leader in that sector, and it's typically someone who is at a higher level of management, somebody who can really influence that sector is someone who individuals within that sector will follow. And so if we have a connection to a champion who is really aligned with the work that we do, who believes in the work that we do, who's going to help carry the work forward, that person is going to be instrumental in helping to maintain our organization. Different types of champions could be a behavioral health director, a superintendent in a school district, a community leader that represents families or youth, or it could be a nonprofit organization's executive director or vice president. Those are the types of individuals that are going to really help to keep your cause flowing across the system of care. Another important element of Step 2, building partnerships, involves identifying the benefits that each sector partner has in partnering with you. So once you've identified some key leaders in each sector, you can bring them together through a community forum or a committee, or through email contact or other forms of media to ascertain what they feel is in it for them to be partnering with you, what the wins are for them to partner with you, and also identify their level of buy-in. Individuals that are not really bought into the organization are going to require you to demonstrate to them your value to them. And for public and private entities that are required to provide services for funding sources, we found it to be quite instrumental to indicate how your organization can help them link better to youth and families within the system of care through your expertise and knowledge within your staffing infrastructure. We've also found that larger organizations such as education, juvenile justice, alcohol and drug, or behavioral health oftentimes will also need an incentive or a way to identify the significance and value of your organization. Now, these types of connections to organizations where you're demonstrating value can take place through meetings, ongoing committees, strategic conversations, emails, phone calls, connecting to your champions, or by holding a meeting within each sector to solicit feedback from them and to demonstrate your value. It's really up to you to determine what is going to work best within your county or state. So once you've identified your system of care sector partners, you've identified the leaders or champions within each partnership, we found it's really instrumental to hold a community forum or to house several committees that will bring in representatives from each sector on a smaller scale. So it's not going to just involve the leaders or the champions, it's going to involve people at all levels of the system of care within each sector. Now, it's important to use the leaders and the champions to help us identify these key individuals that can participate on a committee or a community forum. And it's really important that we get a large cross-sector of individuals at the various levels of each organization or sector. And what we would do at the committee or community forum is use the time to identify wins and strengths of the organizations partnering together, look at areas for growth and opportunities for expansion. By holding these larger community forums, not only are you marketing your organization to the larger community and sharing your mission and vision once again, but you're also able to capture the ideas and insights from the various sectors in terms of partnership and what their needs are for the family and youth sector as a whole. We also recommend that if you hold a committee or community forum, that you use an outside entity to document all the data and to compile it into a format that can be disseminated to all the participants. This could be somebody from an outside organization, an academic institution, or somebody that represents a fairly unbiased perspective of what's happening within the system of care. If you're going to use a community forum approach, you might want to consider doing one once a year at the beginning stages of the system of care. As the entity or your organization becomes more known, you can have a community forum with less frequency, maybe once every couple of years. Committees could be once a month and move to once a quarter. It's really going to depend on time and availability of all the entities involved, and really to determine when to have these and how frequent you would want to rely on the leaders or the champions from within each sector to give you feedback on what their sector would most likely be able to participate in. The third step to maintaining a family organization within a system of care involves the concept of diversity. We found it's critical to continuously hire diverse, authentic family partners within the organization. And these individuals that you would hire would really be representing the youth and families served in your county or state. They themselves would have the experience of having been a youth in the system or having had a child in the system. We also believe it's important for the staff to represent the cultural, linguistic, and ethnic diversity of the community served, if that's possible, or to at least have the experience working with the different communities that you're going to work with. Another critical component that isn't often considered when you're trying to maintain a family organization is also hiring or training staff to be able to speak the language of the various sectors that you're going to be working with, and being able to speak the language at the various levels of individuals within those sectors. So knowing how to talk to educators, public entities, private entities, as well as family and youth is very critical to maintaining the organization's infrastructure. And the final component that's really critical is just having and maintaining an awareness of the diverse community issues. If the community feels that you are hearing their needs and representing them well, you're also going to garner support from them. All of this is about maintaining a connection to individuals across the sectors, individuals within different communities, and meeting all the cultural linguistic needs of the entities that you're serving. If you're able to do this well, it's going to help maintain your organization in the system of care. We included funding in Step 3 under diversity for a variety of reasons, and the first thing we'd like to say is that we highly recommend that your family and youth-led organization become its own separate entity. Whether you become a 501c3 or a privately funded corporation, it's really important for you to become separate and not be embedded within an organization. We have found that most organizations that are embedded tend to lose the value of family and youth to the larger organization's mission and vision, and also become overly reliant on the leaders of that infrastructure to stay aligned with the family and youth organization's mission and vision. And with that in mind, it's really important to have a diverse funding stream, because as we know, funding from the government can ebb and flow depending on what's happening with the economy. And so we recommend considering grants from public and private sources, to identify contributions from one or more of the sector partners. And we also think it's critical to come up with a fundraising scheme that you can do annually, such as putting on a conference or just really having an event to bring in private dollars. The fourth step to maintaining a family-led organization within the system of care is the concept of maintaining an accountable and transparent system. Transparency and accountability are critical for fostering social well-being. Transparency will ensure that the information that you have is available and can be used to measure your organization's performance. It can also be used to guard against any possible misuse of powers. In that sense, transparency will serve to achieve accountability, which means that your organization can be held responsible for your actions. Without transparency and accountability, trust will be lacking. While transparency creates a window into the world of the organization's operations, accountability provides a measure of how the organization is performing. When an organization holds itself accountable to youth and families, it shows them how and why decisions are made. It offers measures of whether the work you're doing is successful and presents areas where others can get involved to help the organization and meet goals. Accountability builds confidence in the organization. So things to consider are how often you share information, how you share the information, whether it's internet, hard media, forums, etc. And you can utilize some of the strategies we identified before in terms of information sharing. It's really important when you're thinking about the concepts of transparency and accountability that you're looking at it both within your organization and how you treat your staff, and outside of the organization. So there's a whole language that can be used around being transparent and open to establish and facilitate that trust. And the work that you do should clearly represent the work of the communities that you serve It's important, if you're going to be transparent and accountable, that you're following through with all commitments and that you're really prepared to speak on behalf of the family sector. The fifth and final step to maintaining a family-led organization within the system of care is about reinforcing your value to the community and sector partners as a whole. One way that you can do this is to establish organizational goals that are aligned with system of care values and sector partner wins. These goals, of course, are also going to be aligned with your mission and vision, but as you accomplish these goals, you're going to want to share these accomplishments with your partners, with the community, with political entities as well. So what we found that can be helpful in doing this is to identify a researcher or student to come in and take a look at your goals and help you to operationalize them so that you can measure success in ways that will be easy to share with others. Once this has been done, you're going to create a method for data sharing to your sector partners and others. This can be done through emails, other forms of technology, through public meetings or conferences, through monthly input reports to your mental health board or board of supervisors or other political entities. It could be through hard media that you mail out to folks. The bottom line is that you want to collect the data on your successes and you want to share this data. This is going to reinforce why you're significant, why you're important, and why you're valuable. If you do not share this information or get this out to the community, the wins that were established earlier on in your development of the organization are going to be lost. This is part of that constant feedback loop. And to make this authentic and genuine, you'll have to, as an organization, develop internal controls for monitoring and managing the data, which typically these days is done through a data management system, and having individuals identified to collect the data, input the data, and an individual to pull out the data and write the reports. Again, a researcher or an academic institution can be very helpful in developing this. This concludes our training on the 5 steps for maintaining a family organization within a system of care. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to complete this training and for all your efforts within your own system of care.